Okay, so welcome. I'm so glad that we are able to do this today, since we had some issues last time. The webinar is automatically captioned. So if you use the CC button in Zoom, you can turn on the captions. Please use the Q&A for questions, because that's easier for us to see than when there are questions in the chat. So please use the Q&A, and we will try to answer them all if we have time at the end. And the links to today's free smart guide will be posted in the chat by the end of the presentation. So today we will talk about digital serenity and how to reduce user stress with brain-friendly web design. Which last week we tried to do, but ironically enough, we turned into some technical issues and had to postpone it to today. So I'm so happy that you could join us today as well. And I hope it was worth waiting for. I'm Malin Hammarberg, and I work as a UX designer and accessibility specialist at Funka Foundation. Funka Foundation is a not-for-profit organization where we work. Our main goal is to empower end users, no matter what ability. And with me today, I have my friend and colleague, Sara Källstrand, who is a research strategist at Funka Foundation. She was also an expert in cognitive disabilities. Today we will talk about the impact of stress, what triggers digital stress, and stress-relieving design features. And I think all of us have felt stress online. And why does that happen? Well, to set the scene, when we go into a web page, we usually have a goal. We are there to do something. For instance, we might need to buy something very quickly because we don't have time to go to the store. And we open up the web page. All we want to do is do our task. But we are bombarded with loads of things that happen. Things that needs our attention and things that we need to take decisions on. So we might get up a question for location, where we need to answer if we want to share our location, maybe because the store wants to know if they can show that they have the item in the store close by. We also, if we are in Europe, need to answer a cookie banner, answer if we want cookie or if we want to change them. There are usually objects of feedback, or in the top we have a sales promotion that they want us to take. And even if we remove these, we say okay to the cookies, and we choose if we want to share our location. More things starts to pop up. There might be issues. There might be a request that we should log in to the site. Maybe a newsletter pops up, or the chatbot starts talking to us. All of this kind of induces our stress, and we haven't even reached to what we want to do. We haven't been able to do the task we were set there to do. And when we do this, a lot of things happen to us. So Sarah, what exactly goes on with us when we get stressed?
So what happens is that we get a lot of information at the same time. As we know, the brain rarely relaxes. So we are constantly processing the information we get from the environment. And when we hear the word information, often we think about words, either words that we see in writing or that we hear. But in fact, the processing of information concerns all kinds of information that we have in the surrounding. Is it too hot or is it too cold where we sit? Is it comfortable? Is there a strange sound in the background or a smell? And all the time, the brain is taking in all of this information and deciding what to do with it, and if something needs to be done. And in this processing of the information, we're using different mental functions, such as concentration, focus, paying attention, but also memory, communication skills. And all of these processes are going on all the time. And if we look at the next slide, what happens when we get stressed is that there is often an overload of information. And then the processing of information is no longer efficient, which means that the mental functions malfunction. In fact, they are put in a mess. So what can happen in the impact of stress is that we could have a working memory failure, which leads us to forget things. We could have a failure of attention span, which makes it difficult to concentrate and learn things. We could also have adaptability issues, meaning that it's difficult to know how to react to a new situation or the situation where we are in. It's more difficult to become flexible and to adjust to a new situation. And that could lead to worry, for example, about new situations or about the situation you are in, or also to poor judgment and jumpiness and low impulse control. And if we look at the next slide, what's important to remember when we talk about digital serenity and digital concentration is that we are no longer sitting with our personal computer at home and just concentrating on the screen or the interface we have in front of us. Nowadays, and more, we are taking our devices with us and we are in different surroundings. So you could, for example, we talk into your family about plans for vacation while at the same time trying to do the booking online. Or you could be working on a spreadsheet and at the same time chatting with colleagues. Or you could be multitasking on different devices at the same time. And this is very frequent. I'm sure there are quite a few of you now who is trying to do your emails at the same time as looking at the webinar. I mean, this is normal. We usually think that we are very good at multitasking, but in fact, what happens is that we divide our attention between the screen, between the digital information, and between all other signals and information we get from the surrounding. So obviously, looking at your phone at the same time that you're driving is a really bad idea. I think most people understand that. But it could also be that you are on public transport and you're trying to find your way, not missing your stop, and at the same time looking at the directions on your phone. So the impact of all these different information that we get and the stress levels, it really depends on a lot of factors. So if we look at the next slide, we can see the different types of impact. Malin, if you found your...
Yeah.
So it depends both on the situation, as just discussed, that we are always taking our devices with us in different environments. It can also depend on the form of day. So if you have had a very stressful morning, then the energy levels you have in the afternoon are lower. So the threshold for what information is too much information is lower, and it's easier to get stressed. And for persons with a cognitive impairment, it could be also that what you did yesterday or the day before still has an impact on how much energy and how much what the form of day is today. And then it's very individual. It depends on the different mental functions. Some people are good at memory and have more difficulties with concentration. Other people are good at concentration, but have difficulties with communication. So that means that the impact on stress is always higher on the type of mental functions where you already need to do a bit more work to get through. And the scale of the impact is very individual. It could be just mildly irritating, but it can also be really debilitating, meaning that you just cannot finish the task and you turn off the go to different web page or turn off the computer.
So what triggers stress online? Well, if we look at when we go to the web, we have a process or a user journey. First, we need to understand what to do. Then we need to be able to do what we are set there to do. And then we need to get some kind of confirmation, understand how it went. And during all these, we need to focus and keep focus. And it's hard for us to keep focus. As Sarah said, we are bombarded by different tasks, notification and emails, chats, smartwatches, phones and laptops, all are trying to get our attention and are distracting us consistently. And research has shown that over the past couple of decades, people's attention spans has shrunk considerably. Our attention span is about 40 to 50 seconds now. That's not very long. So our short attention spans are easily disrupted by distraction. So it's hard for us to keep focus. And that was one of the things I tried to show in the first example, how we constantly get disturbed by things even when we are on track in our user journey to do something. And this leads to a cognitive overload, as Sarah was talking about. And it's kind of a bad way forward because we add cognitive load on the web page. And when we get cognitive load, we get stressed and we can take less cognitive load. So it's kind of a continuous fall down a stair or something. So, but let's talk about these 4 steps in the user journey. So when we want to understand what to do, then our barriers are if it's complex content. So it's written in a language or in a manner that's hard to understand. Or it's hard for us to identify the important information. Maybe we are met by that wall of text and we can't really figure out what is it we are supposed to read in this part, and we get stressed. And this is also about information overload. Maybe there's loads of information and everything is picking on our attention. Or the interface is unfamiliar and we can't really figure out where they want us to go or what they want us to click, or the menu icons maybe not look like we are used to and not placed where we're used to. So we have a hard time even figure out where the menu is on the website. All these increase the stress. But when we figured out what we are supposed to do and we try to achieve our task, then there are more barriers in the way that increases the stress. We have those mysterious interactive elements, and those elements where we're not sure what happens when we will click on them. For some people, this will increase the stress a lot. When your users that are not tech savvy tend to get very stressed when they don't understand a function. But this is also something that reflects our cognitive barriers. Also, when their instructions are unclear, it's hard to understand what to do, and we get frustrated and a bit stressed. Also, time limits. When we know when we need to fix something in a set of time, and maybe we were supposed to add our passport number in the form, but our passport is locked away in another room, and we need to run and get it, and the time is ticking, and it stresses us out. Another thing that we see in stress for people is when we don't understand how long will this process take. So if we have a survey online, for instance, how many questions do I need to answer? Because I started to get stressed and feels like there's a lot of questions, but I don't understand how long is this process. When we move on to knowing how it went, so when we get the feedback, when there's a lack of feedback, we get stressed because we're not sure if we have actually achieved what we wanted to achieve. Or when we get confusing feedback back. So we get error messages that are not clear. We don't understand what we were supposed to fill in. We don't understand what we did wrong. We understand that we did something wrong, but we can't really tell what we need to fix. This increases the burden on us and the stress level goes up. Also in this context, when we don't find the support we need to fix it, then it's extremely annoying because we can't move on. We don't have the right information and we can't ask for the right information. And then the last one, the thing about our concentration, when we need to keep focus. And there are loads of distracting elements online. They might be pop-ups that are needed for different reasons, feedbacks or email signups or login or chatbots. It might be auto-playing content. And you know that big video on a website or that carousel that keeps turning around or that ad that is flashing on the side, all of them ticking on our attention. And then it can be multiple call to actions. We can also see that some of the actions are kind of driven from a sales point of view and almost becomes a bit, and are written in a way that they ask us to do something with a fear of missing out. So we can look at some distraction elements that we usually find on websites. It might be pop-ups that we are supposed to sign in to get some, maybe to get some reduction or, so this one says members save 10% or more over 100 hotels worldwide when you're signed in. Then we can get pop-ups about the cookie banners, even if they are good for us. Somehow they can stress us when they keep moving up on top of the elements. We can have the email sign-up forms or those call to actions where they say there's only few left of this or this is very popular. So one of these items here has no tag, on the other tag says selling fast, you need to act now. We have those that say, oh, it's only one room left at this facility, or it's only one of this shirts left, you need to buy it now. So the fear of missing out, that we constantly quickly need to take action. And this one, sorry, my eyes are a bit bad, so I'm zooming in. Hello, member, now you have, now are the last day to use your value check, 5 days, 1 hour, 6 minutes and 44 seconds. So we even have a timer ticking down, increasing our moments of stress.
So what happens when we have all this information and we are getting stressed from a website at this time, but stressed from anything, is that the instinct, the age-old instinct of fight or flight kicks in. So we tend to see the object that gives us stress as either as an enemy of a kind. So either we choose to fight, which could be picking a fight with customer support for a website, or if you're prone to that, to try to write a few angry messages in social media. Or it could be a flight, which means that I'm never going to go on this website again, ever. And none of that is really good if you're a website designer or an owner of a website that wants to sell things to the public, or a public organization that want to have be of service to everyone in your community. You really don't want to be seen as a threat. You want to be seen as the best friend, where people will go back to your website again and again and feel welcome. So now we're going to show you a few tips on what you can do to get a more brain-friendly website and really become less of a threat and more of the best friend. And so these are just a few tips, but we're going to go through examples of how you can highlight important information, have fewer distractions on your website, and also why multimodality is good for helping the brain to process information. So highlighting important information is really a way to help the user to get things done on your website. So people go to the website to do something, like Molly said, and if they can't really find it behind all the other new fancy features or news that you want to tell the website user about, then it really creates frustration. And an example here of a more simple way to present the important information is actually the Zoom interface, where they have the 4 options of a new meeting, joining a meeting, scheduling a meeting, sharing a screen, and then an agenda at the side, just to see what happens today. And that's it. No promotions, no pop-ups. It's easy to find what you came to do on the website. In a similar manner, it's also good to have few distractions. So the example we have here is from the National Library of Medicine, where you go to find articles and literature about medicine, obviously. So what they've done is to do the search bar over the majority of the page. So this is really what you can see. This is what you focus on the website. You go there to find information. And then they have the other elements, other issues or things you can do on the website quite discreetly at the bottom, and there are few options. So there's not so much to think about, not so many additional information or publicity about new articles on anything. It's really clear how you can focus on what you came to do, which is to search for information. And the third thing is that as we talked about before, some people are good at memory and others are concentration or on communication. We all have our different strengths and preferences when it comes to taking in information. So it's also very brain friendly and very friendly to your users to offer different ways to take in information, and not just in the sense of you shouldn't present information in just one of the senses. It's really to make it possible to get the information in multiple ways at the same time. So for example, the National Public Radio in the US, they're a radio station, of course, so they have access to the audio online, but on the same level and in the same menu, easily accessible, they also have the transcripts. And in addition, they have some features that are photo documentary. So if your preferred way of getting information is visually from pictures, that is also possible. And then I think, yeah.
So if from our research, we discovered 2 key insights that are crucial for designing more accessible digital experience. First, even subtle design changes, such as simplified content, can significantly actually improve the user experience. And really small adjustments go a very long way in reducing cognitive load, making it easier for all users to complete tasks. Secondly, it's important to recognize that people with cognitive disabilities are often the first to notice usability issues and that affect everyone. So when their feedback highlights design flaws that might be So their feedback can highlight design flaws that might not be immediately apparent, but impact user ability to focus, navigate, and understand content. So in many cases, addressing these issues early benefits a broader user base. So here's an example of a very small, discrete change. So this is a screenshot from a website that sells groceries. And I want you to notice 2 icons on this one. We have a magnifying glass at the top in the search bar, and we have a magnifying glass as a button underneath an image of tomatoes. And just this small thing that we have the same icon, and for the user to figure out if this icon actually does the same or it has different functions, kind of increases that stress level just a bit. So a very simple change. And another website that has the exact same pattern, they have the magnifying glass in the search bar, and then they have a magnifying glass on the image. But this time that magnifying glass also contains a little plus. So it's evident that they are not exactly the same. This is one of those small changes that actually can help a lot of users. So there might be small things we can do that decreases the stress levels and increases the love for the website. So to sum it up, we have 5 tips. Focus on the user's objective, keep it simple and intuitive, help the user keep focus, provide alternatives, the multimodality, and test with users of different abilities. All this will create a more stress reduced experience. And I think we are over the time, but I can stand for 10 minutes and answer questions. I'm not sure with Sarah.
We have a few questions. I think definitely it's worth taking them. Yeah.
Yeah. More Q&A. What WCAG success factors are you looking forward to if you could get them into the new version? i.e. If the new WCAG, or if WCAG didn't exist yet. And I think Sarah has some, she has been working a lot with cognitive requirements. So I think you have some.
Yeah, I have a lot of favorites, but I'm not sure which ones are actually on the road to the next.
It doesn't matter.
I mean, we should
best
also,
wish list, I think.
yeah, it's a wish list. Yeah, we should also say that in Europe, at least, another way is to get it into the EN standard and other standards. It's not only if you're in Europe, it's really the legislative standards that we're looking at, and then it's the EN 301-549 for digital. But I think a lot of the visual cues for guidance would be good, such as, for example, having visual progress bars that we've seen that it's very much appreciated by users. Also putting focus on information, on important information, and similar issues. That was something I was thinking about the same line, but this kind of, yeah, like the example that Malin had in the end, to make sure that elements are not looking the same when they are in fact behaving differently. These type of requirements. And there are a lot of requirements that do exist outside WCAG in other types of standards.
I love the readability requirements. It's the requirements about how you should think about line height and the length of the lines. They are in WCAG AAA right now, but I think those should really be lifted because they will help the readability, not for one limited group, but actually for everyone. There are several studies that can confirm this. So those are my favorites that I would like to lift. And I will take the next question. Regarding the advice to tell how long a process will last, I wonder if this info could sometimes feel stressful, if there is a risk to cause stress when telling things like step 3 of 10 or fill in this form in 10 minutes.
Well, in fact, from user testing, there has been quite a lot of research and studies into this. And what is most stressful for especially users with cognitive impairments is not knowing. So the stress of not being able to have control of the process and not knowing how to plan and when they could think it's finished, how much energy you need to put into the assignment is much more stressful than knowing how many steps. Because if there is a long number of steps, then okay, I can close this now and I can come back to it when I have more energy, thinking about the situation that you have around you or the formal day. It's a way to reassure the user that the process will be finished at one point and roughly how long it is, so that you can plan whether you want and decide whether you want to do it now or whether there is another time where you have a better situation to be able to complete the task.
I also think when we are in control of the situation, we usually feel less stressed than when we don't have control of the situation. And a way to get control of the situation is to feel that you have all the cards on the table and you know what's going on and what your part in it is. But when it's a bit hidden, then we get a bit frustrated and stressed because we don't own the situation anymore. What about issue of designing for all screen sizes and mobile? A good question. I would say mobile phones tend to actually increase the stress levels because we are so much affected by the situation, as Sarah said. There are so much things going on when we use our mobile phones, and also not only the surroundings, but the technical thing that it might be light on the screen that distracts us. It might be small areas we need to zoom in and out of, and all that kind of increases what we need to do and demands more focus from us. So I think mobile phones sometimes can stress us more, also that they are always with us and always doing things. But designing for mobile is extremely important because when we zoom in on a website, which some users need to do, it's important they are allowed to zoom in. So responsiveness in design is extremely important. Something you want to add, Sarah?
I think this is really your area with the different formats. So.
Yeah. Can we get a link to watch this again? Of course you will get a link. We will send it out. And there are so many questions. Okay. Okay, what would you suggest to designers who want to design animated elements and other pieces of content that could be distracting, but at the same time enrich the website's identity? That's a good question, I think. Do you want to start, Sarah? Or?
Yeah, I would say that you would need to look at the elements in relation to each other and to really see the whole picture of how it fits together. And what is distracting or not, you need to do user tests on that as well with persons of different abilities to be able to, because as Molly discussed, sometimes very subtle changes like where you place it and how prominent the element is in relation to other elements, and what is the most important information you want to have on the website. It all goes together. So you need to do user tests on different elements, not just separately, but really in relation to the whole.
Yeah, and usually adding letting the user get in control once again, so they feel that they own the situation. So any possibility to opt out of possible animations and not make them forced for everyone. It's a good way as well. So the ability to pause or stop or and set in your web browser that you don't want animations, and that was in then works on your site. That's also a way forward when it comes to it. So giving the control to the end user. Do you have some tips, thoughts about best practice reducing stress, cognitive overload during the design process too? Best regards, UX designer, ADHD. Yeah, I get you there. Completely. There's a lot of stress when we design things because we tend to try to think about everything at once, and then we take in feedback from so many stakeholders. It's stressful. I need to think about it, and if I can think of something, I promise we will add it in an article or something on our webpage. But I can't, from right now, I can't really think of one good tip, because there's loads of balls you kind of juggle around with in the air to in the design process itself.
Yeah. Well, a general good tip is to try to identify accessibility issues as early in the process as possible, so you don't discover things later on and have to redo stuff. I mean, that's really one of the key things.
Yeah, of course. Accessibility should always be something we do continuously when we work. It's not a step at the end, because then it's even more stressful to have that list of issues you need to work through. Do you have any tips on how to handle a dialogue with the designers and/or business owners when they argue that all the inclusive requirements are not visually pleasing? I would like to kind of disagree, because I think you can create extremely beautiful websites and stress-free websites if you have accessibility and cognitive disabilities in mind when you start creating the design. But of course, all people have different meaning on what's beautiful design. I think the business owners is the hard thing to go around, because there are sometimes you need to maybe add things you don't think or like, but the best thing would be to do user testing. And when you show the result of the user testing, then you can move forward to something that your users love, and that the business that's visually appealing to the business owners, if that makes sense. Sarah?
Yeah, no, I would agree. It's really to come with data and come with facts. And if you have user testing, and if you have the research that shows that it's actually good for business, then it's easier to go around these type of arguments.
And I would just lastly, before we say thank you and goodbye, and talk about Susanna Lorin's next week, our webinar next week. It will be very close this time, since we moved this 1 week. So next week, October 25th at 1:30, Susanna Lorin will talk about alt-text. It will be an interactive session. She's our managing director at Funka Foundation. She's like share in a loads of different standardization things. I don't read them right now. And she's the IAAP representative to the EU. I think this will be a really good and fun webinar, where there will be loads of exercises, if I understood Susanna correctly. And she write, you will write alt-text like a pro afterwards. So do not miss that one. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart that you took your time and listened to this. I hope you enjoyed this Friday and have a great weekend. Thank you.